Hello, this is James, aka JP Harker, coming to you again with another book review. This time we are looking at Morte by Sir Thomas Malory. It's a classic of Arthurian myth, and we're going to be having a little look at this. I'll be honest, I mainly read this out of a sense of obligation. I'm writing some stuff that's got a bit of an Arthurian theme, and I thought, I'll do the research properly, I'll read up on this. And classic or not, I have to say I did not enjoy this book, not even a little bit, and I don't feel particularly more educated about Arthurian myth either. I know that when criticising books like this you have to say, look at it in its historical context. I mean, this was written in 1485, that's the same year as Bosworth Field, just to put things into a bit of context for you, so it's not going to be fast, pacey prose, I appreciate that. But all the same, it was not fun. It was quite dull, quite repetitive, and by that I mean not Homer's Iliad repetitive, as in Grandpa Simpson repetitive. The point is, there was an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. It's that kind of repetitive, in the language and in the stories. Something you'll notice if you ever dare to read this is you'll hear the word, struck him such a buffet, and you'll hear that a lot. I genuinely think I'll kill somebody if I read that again, because that's how every fight ends. He strikes him such a buffet, and he falls down horse and man. That's all of the action scenes. And I found that quite frustrating quite quickly. So, there's that. But it's not just the language that I found repetitive, it was the stories themselves. Even though it's called Death of Arthur, I think it was originally The Life and Death of King Arthur, but they changed it or whatever. But Arthur himself is only a fairly small character. It's mainly about the various adventures of his various knights. And the adventures of his knights, they're more or less interchangeable. You have a little bit of uniqueness, things like Tristan and Isolde, and you have some of what Sir Gareth is doing and some of what Sir Palamedes is doing. Some of it's unique, but for the most part, the stories are the same. It's knights wandering around and being really tough. They'll come across a place, normally a castle, where there is some dark custom, or where there is some damsel or another, and they'll either fight one knight or a group of knights, and they'll win. That's pretty much it. They'll go somewhere and they'll win. Very rarely do they lose, very rarely are they in any real peril. Very rarely do they feel doubt, and because of that, there's no real character development, there's no real depth. It's basically, 700 odd pages of look how tough these guys are. And you could have done that in a page, really, and we could have gotten to know them a little bit. So that was quite a disappointment. Sorry, Sir Thomas, but I don't think he really cares. Another fairly, not a huge issue, but a surprising issue I found with this, is there's a lot more rape involved, and I mean by our heroes, than I had expected. Both Uther Pendragon, who is Arthur's father, and King Pellinore, who is Sir Tor's father, got their sons through rape. And it's never brought up as something negative. It's never considered even vaguely reprehensible. Neither man is considered less of a decent and noble knight for having done this. Neither of the women seem to hold it against them in any way. And for those who cry, oh, historical context, I'll remind you that in 1485 rape was in fact still a crime. So, yeah, that was some uncomfortable reading, and it wasn't resolved, and nobody was reprimanded in any way, shape or form. So that was a bit odd. Another thing that was a bit odd is that everyone seems to know that Lancelot and Guinevere are in love, yet Arthur's reaction to it is almost nothing. It's not until quite late on in the game that he gets even a vague, I'm not quite happy about all of this. It's common knowledge and commonly accepted. When you have Tristan and Isolde's story, they're like, oh, we're the greatest romance since Lancelot and Guinevere. And I thought, you're aware that she's married, and she's married to the king. But it's never brought up. It's like the rape. It's like, I don't understand how this hasn't been an issue to anybody. But there you go. I'm babbling and hammering into this book. Sorry about that. But yes, those were some issues I had. On the plus side, and there aren't many plus sides unfortunately, on the plus side I liked Gawain very much. He's the closest thing we had to a complicated character, and I liked him for it. He is a good and noble knight, and he does a lot of good and noble things, and he has his little section of his adventures, and he's very loyal to King Arthur, and he does all of these brave and gallant things, and is especially gallant towards ladies for the most part. He learns his lesson, but that I won't spoiler it for you. I will spoiler this bit though. Be warned. Even though he's done all these good things, he's also party to murder. He and his brothers murder a knight, and so he's bad because he's murdered not an unarmed man, but he and his brothers ganged up on a bloke and killed him. But he's good because he's done all of these noble things, and he feels kind of bad for this. And when another of his brothers is killed, he just doesn't really care. But a different brother is killed by accident, and he just refuses to forgive the man who's done it. So there's a complexity to him. He's a bit more believable as a real person, as opposed to a lot of these others who will have almost no flaws, or if they do, like Lancelot and his pride, it's not really a big flaw, and it's not made much of. So yes, I liked him, but that's more or less the only thing I liked. There were a few passages near the end that were quite interesting, but for the most part, no, I did just find it dull. So, I'm afraid this has been quite a negative video, sorry. This was read sort of under protest, but I thought I had to. I'll sum it up with, you read The Hobbit and you think it's slow until you read Lord of the Rings. And you think Lord of the Rings is slow until you read The Silmarillion. Well, this makes The Silmarillion feel fast. It makes it feel like a fast-paced thriller of an adventure. It is dull, it is tedious, it is repetitive, and I'm sorry, Sir Thomas Malory, I did not enjoy it even a little bit. And unless you are a fan of leafing through the Old Testament for a bit of fun, you will not enjoy this, I'm afraid. So I would not recommend this book. Sorry, I'll flash it up one more time just for the sake of it. Death of Arthur, Sir Thomas Malory. Sorry, but not a good one. Hopefully my next video will be a little bit more positive. This is James, aka JP Harker. Comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I shall see you again soon. Thank you.